Welcome to The Grow Show, powered by Steel. The Grow Show is brought to you by Marty Grunder's Grow Group, where we specialize in teaching landscaping companies how to clarify their platform, grow their people, build their processes, and realize profits. Everything we teach is grounded in real experience. Our team is actively involved in the day-to-day operations of Southwest Ohio's Grunder Landscaping Company. New episodes of The Grow Show are released weekly on Wednesdays. Remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now, here's your host, Marty Grunder.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the case may be. This is Marty Grunder from Grunder Landscaping Company and the Grow Group. Thanks for downloading the Grow Show powered by Steel. Today on the Grow Show, we have my partner and my friend, the illustrious Vincent Torchia, Esquire. We're going to get a legal update from Vince, as well as his thoughts on the economy, the landscape industry in general, Vince. But first, a reminder, the Grow Show is the greatest thing since the NFL draft. I'm a Bengals fan, so is Vince. I'm a little more vocal about it. Vince isn't as dumb as I am to go around telling everyone he's a Bengals fan. Vince is not a sucker. I am. The NFL draft is coming up, so I'm very excited to see who the Bengals might take. Dreams of a Super Bowl dancing in my head. The 2026 Super Bowl's in San Francisco. I probably won't go if the Bengals make it, but I sure will watch it, Vince, in my family room with my Bengals jersey on after I've taken a sedative. The thought that it could happen this year is so exciting, and that excitement will provide a nice distraction for me till about November, and then we'll see how real it is. Meanwhile, Vince remains calm, but go Bengals, who dey? And now on to the Grow Show powered by Steel. Vince, welcome. In case people are living under a rock and they don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about how you got here and your role today, please.
Yeah, Marty, it's hard to believe this is our 15th year together working, which is amazing.
Are you okay?
I'm doing okay.
The counseling's helping?
Counseling's helping,
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Lisa and I have our sidebars to get through
Lisa,
things.
my wife.
Yeah,
probably plenty of sidebars.
So yeah, for those that don't know, I started as an intern here 15 years ago with Marty. Again, just doing general things from events to QuickBooks to whatever needed to be done for the day. And then 15 years later, we become partners, closer friends, and we've got a great business. And it's been super exciting for both of us. So yeah, happy to be with you.
It's awesome. And you have responsibilities at both companies at Grunder Landscaping. In fact, as soon as we're done shooting this episode, we're going over to the Hilton Garden Inn for a strategic planning meeting,
which will be great.
Head up. So you do that for Grunder Landscaping, among some other things, some compliance stuff, and help us. And then tell us a little bit about what you do at the Grow Group.
Yeah, at the Grow Group, really, I'm like the daily operator, right? So making sure that all the things that we are committed to from a strategic perspective are happening on a daily basis with the organization. And then again, I'm doing peer groups. I have 5 peer groups that I run in partnership with our group at McFarland Stanford, one-on-one coaching. And obviously, we're still the content delivery vehicle. So I get to run the business, but also get to interact with companies from all across the country, which gives me a great perspective.
Yeah, and folks, Vince brings a wonderful perspective here to the landscaping company, which I'm representing today. I know that you've become a great confidant for both Seth and I, just bouncing things off you. You don't live in Ohio right now. At some point you will, but you are able to come in and provide a perspective that is just very helpful. And the wisdom that you've gained from working with landscaping companies, you've seen what we've done. You've been an important part of our growth. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, it's been great. Yeah, absolutely.
And I appreciate everything that you do. I hope you know that. I think you know that, but I wanted to call you out for the work that you do, because you enable me to free up and spend my talents on things I do best. We don't have the same talents.
No, that's why it works well.
It does. So, all right, legally, owners and leaders of landscaping companies, and we're not attorneys, whatever the
I'll disclose.
Like 75 RPMs or whatever it is. We're not doing that. But legally, what are some things that leaders and owners, what are some of the concerns that you have that you think we should talk about?
Yeah, there's 3 things, Marty, that I just want to mention I think are good for everybody as a reset. Number 1 is just that a lot of companies do a great job on training for landscaping. They do a great job on training for the technical side of the business. They don't do a lot of training on things that might come up that could become a legal issue later on down the path. The extreme examples of that would be like something like harassment.
Yeah.
What do you do when you see something that you're like, man, that doesn't seem like we should be doing that at our company? I don't know if that was harassment or not, but I don't know what to do. I'm running a crew. It's 95 degrees outside. I'm in Topeka, Kansas. Like, do I call my boss? Do I call my manager? Do I not say anything? Like, again, that's uncomfortable for chief members.
Telling the team, making harassment policies prevalent, make sure they're signed off on, probably vocalize it and document that. What else?
So training is one big bucket, but what I want people to understand is that training for leaders in your company is as important to me as all the other training that you do.
I see what you're saying.
So whether it's...
And we overlook it because we think like of the tangible how to plant a tree, how to mow a
Correct.
straight line, safety, but we don't think about some of the other training things.
Correct.
Is what you're saying.
So whether it's harassment or whether it's what language you can or can't use on a job site, or how you can interact with a team member or a client, right? What happens if you stop at Speedway and you back into another truck there,
what do you do?
and you weren't supposed to be there, right? So all those things that happen, again, for Grunder, as an example of something that is really helpful, is that we have protocols. If you get into a car accident, if something happens, there's protocols that team members can follow, and it's in their glove compartment. They're trained to it, and they can work through it.
Bag. They're trained to it,
right?
And they can pull that sheet out in case there's an accident or something. It's in English. It's in Spanish. Look, I'm almost 57. We ought to be doing this stuff.
Yeah, things happen, right?
But when I was your age, I had a lot of stuff because I've always been kind of anal and concerned and want to be a rule follower.
Yep.
But we've had things we were lacking in, and we're pretty smart.
Right.
Like, you got to pay attention. There's danger.
And the last thing I want to say about documentation is that the training. The documentation of the training is equally as important as you mentioned.
And why?
Because you want to be able to, again, if we're talking legally here, build a case that we're a great company. Hey, this is what we do. We train on this stuff. Here's our 52-week training calendar. Here's where our team signs off. We have greenius. We can tell when they logged in. We can tell that they did it. We can tell they didn't just check a box and move on. They were using the system. So again, training is just one bucket where it's, again, everything from harassment to vehicles to conduct, and documenting of that is just one thing that companies should be looking at.
What's the second thing?
Number two would be what's going on with devices right now. It's like what I call the BYOD. Everybody has a cell phone, right? Whether you're a team member that's American or non-American, or you're a salesperson or you're owner of a company, everybody has a cell phone. And so you have to have a policy at your company, is if we're going to have everyone have a BYOD policy, you're going to bring your own device. We might give you a stipend. We might supplement that device for you in some way. But BYOD, or, hey, this is really important to us as an organization, so we're going to give you a cell phone. We're going to give you an iPad. We're going to give you a machine that you have to do your work on. And legally, the only things people get in trouble with really here are, what happens when you have a team member who is using their own cell phone for work that you're not paying for, it's theirs, and they're texting clients or texting team members, and that team member leaves. Now what? How do I get information? Where does that leave off? What can I legally do? What can't I legally do? Is that spelled out? And so there's no right or wrong way to do this. Like at Grunder Landscaping, for example, we are a mostly BYOD company, which means people bring their own device. We pay them a stipend on like the first and second paycheck of the month. And for that stipend, for that benefit, for that privilege, there's certain things they have to do with that information, right? And so we realize that people maybe don't want to carry two cell phones. They don't want to have, outside of like leaving, the job, they don't want to have two cell phones around. So we've chosen to do BYOD, but we've put the parameters in place where if something happens, we can collect, regroup, or grab the things that we need to grab from that phone.
That makes sense. So number one on the training, number two on the device. What's the third thing?
Third for me would be this kind of overarching idea of relooking at contracts. A lot of people look at contracts either with team members or with their clients, and they're way more focused on getting the contract renewed and what's the renewal price and when does it go out. And they haven't read or looked at that language in many years. And that can just become dangerous. And I will tell everybody listening to this, there's just two things I want you to focus on, other than the dollars, other than the price. How do we get into this contract?
How do we get into this?
And then how do we get out?
How do we get out? Okay.
Because we always want to have a parachute, escape hatch, whatever the case may be, that you get into a nightmare relationship with a client and you have no way out of it yourself. Or vice versa. You are not clear about how a client gets out of it, and now there's this huge gray area with what happens. And so, again, aside from all the legalese, aside from all the pricing, when you're doing contracts, especially with clients, you have to be super clear about how we're starting this, how we're getting into this, how we're kicking it off, and then how are either parties getting out of it. Yep. It's not bad for them to have an escape hatch either, because the worst thing that can happen is that you don't have clear language on how you get out of a contract, and now there's this this gray area that's not black and white. And we're focused on that instead of focused on selling or producing or everything.
I appreciate it. I mean, all three of those are things that I haven't been thinking about, and it's spring. Like, those are all things we should have in place. Okay. Vince, the attorney. Thank you.
Yep.
Vince, the economist.
Right. Hat back on. Yeah.
That's what you studied with your undergraduate degree. What's your opinion on the economy? What are some takeaways, concerns, maybe opportunities? What do you see there?
I think number one, Nobody knows what's going to happen with, again, we're recording this in April. No one really knows what's going to be the impact of tariffs, right? Whether they're starting, whether they're stopping, whether they're in probation, whether they're ramped up, pulled back. And we can't really worry about that. We just need to know that I would say it's April. For the next 90 days to 6 months, it could just be a little chaotic. And so that's just something that we have to own as an organization. I'm in the perspective that that is really more of a distraction than anything else for companies. Like, you just need to continue to focus on.
You can't control it.
You can't control it.
Consume you.
You're certainly not going to guess what's going to happen correctly.
Right.
You can be educated about it, and you can see that, hey, for example, it's April. We need to buy salt. A lot of salt comes from Egypt. If Chinese boats are shipping salt from Egypt to Michigan, and I'm going to go get it, I need to build in some of that chaoticness into my pricing.
I got it.
Right? So I'm not saying ignore it, right? Especially for things like that, where you're going to make these big purchases that are international. But for the normal goods and services that we're using, there might be some markups on things. We've just got to be able to continue to have conversations with our clients and conversations with our sales teams about how this can't be a distraction. Like, we have to focus on selling. We have to focus on doing the things that we can control.
You know, it was funny. We had a meeting yesterday at our Cincinnati office, and when I drove from Cincinnati back up to Dayton, I was listening to a Cincinnati radio station, and they had a wealth manager. It's a lady. I know her name, and I know the firm. It's a pretty successful firm. And she was saying, hey, listen, you know, I'm going to comment on the tariffs, but you're not going to know if I'm a Democrat or a Republican. I'm just commenting on what I know. And she said, when you make investments and when you're working with your business and you're looking at the economy, you have to be agnostic from a political perspective. And that's so true. Like, I think we could dedicate, you know me, I get revved up, and I'm not really, to say I'm not paying attention to the tariffs is wrong. I am. But I'm listening to you. Like, we got to look at this pragmatically, and we got to be thoughtful about what we're doing and just consider all options. Be prepared. Right. You know, it kind of goes to that mantra we talk about, that all planning is good. Right. To sit here in a haze and think nothing's going to happen and, you know, whatever, that's not smart either.
No. And so again, it goes back to just having the buzzwords you need to have at your company to make sure you cut through that. So for example, if somebody brings it up, to your point, Marty, you just said, you can be like, well, Billy Bob, is that in our control or out of our control? Yeah. It's in our control that we can plan our day and follow up with people and continue to talk about why price isn't the thing that sets us apart. That's in our control. It's not in our control what's going to happen with China and tariffs.
We're not going to get on a phone call no matter how powerful we think we are. Right. That to move anywhere.
So let's control what we can control.
Yeah. All right. I've lost track of how many companies, ACE companies we have and the revenue, but I know we have more than 230 companies in our ACE groups. It's probably closing in, getting closer to $2 billion.
$1.7 billion.
$1.7 billion worth of revenue. So I share that with you folks listening here today on the Grow Show, powered by Steel with Vince Torchia, my partner in the Grow Group. I share that with you because we've got a pretty good benchmark.
Oh, yeah.
What are you seeing so far this year in terms of companies? How are sales? What are their challenges? Like, what's coming out of all these peer group meetings? Because just about every week we got one or two meetings
going on, right? And we're getting good information from. Number one would be that sales are not decreasing, but they are slowing for most companies. So the rate at growth is slowing. Companies are still growing, but sales are a little harder to come by. And so
they're out there, though.
They're out there.
Got to go hustle.
You got to go get them. Yes, but they're out there.
They're out there.
But companies are not growing by the 20, 30% by just sitting in their offices waiting for phone calls, right?
Which is kind of what went on in COVID.
It happens,
The leverage was all with the contract.
Correct. So that is tightening, I would say, but companies are definitely still growing. All across all of our groups, I think from the last metrics that we had, still ACES as a whole was growing almost about 8% year over year.
That's great.
Which is, again, great for companies,
That's
right?
Great.
So that's number one. Number two, there's been a total resurgence of a focus on maintenance. Because it's been so good and because there's been so many projects for so long, companies are learning from whether it's other ACE members or facilitators or other people to be like, hey, this isn't always like this. Like, this can kind of shut off, right? There were companies like, let's say that you're in production home building. In 2008, some of those companies just shut off that faucet when they realize it's not worth it for them anymore. And you might lose a 30-year revenue for all I know. So people have really refocused on maintenance to understand that, hey, whether we have ups and downs, right, maintenance is going to stay consistent and maintenance is going to carry us through. Actually, last week when we were in Charlotte, we were talking about this with the TBDs group. It was an awesome meeting. And Jim Cali was talking with Gene Freeman. Gene's our future host of Grow 2026 in Dallas. So it'll be awesome. Talking about an awesome goal would be to get to where the point where your maintenance division can cover most or all of the costs at your company, so that you are not subject to the boom and bust of construction.
You're not to this.
Yeah. So
if
you get to maintenance as 50+% of your portfolio, it can really cover what the organization needs, and then you can
survive.
You can absolutely survive.
Maybe a bad word to use there, but that's the reality.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, some other things. You and I both went to the University of Dayton.
Yep.
You got A in economics. I got a D from Dayton. I'm just being honest, folks.
Right, yeah.
That wasn't my thing, the management and leadership thing, the sales thing. Vince, there's stuff that it doesn't make sense to me right now. Interest rates are high. Unemployment is low, but you can't find people that want a job. And there's things just don't add up to me.
Right. Yeah.
What am I... Like, is this an anomaly? What are you seeing in here? Why am I wrong? Am I just I'm not very smart? But there's just things that don't add up the way I know the prior 39 years of my business career went. Am I making sense?
No, you're exactly right. I am continuing to surprise myself that the economy, what we feel on a daily basis, and the stock market are divorced from each other. They're not related at all. It's crazy.
Right.
So the market can be going great or vice versa. And like, we don't see that in our daily life, right? It's crazy. So that's number one. Unemployment, it's really hard to understand, because this is not just a green industry feeling of, we want to continue to find great people. You talk to most people that run small businesses or medium-sized businesses. Right. It's really hard for them to find team members. And, no, you're absolutely right. It is a total anomaly. It doesn't make any sense.
What do we do with that? There's nothing I can do about it, or what? Like, I'm having trouble processing.
Yeah, I think you said it already today on the show, which I think is the point that everybody needs to remember to hear, is that whether it's true or not true, whether it's right or wrong or good or bad, we have to have a narrative, our company, that does not matter to us, because we can control what we can control.
Yeah, right.
And so if we are... What I don't want anybody to do listening to this is go, well, Marty says unemployment's low and it's hard to find people. I can't find people, so it must not be my fault. Maybe
I'm not going to do anything.
And maybe your company, Marty, to your point,
is
not a good place to work.
Yeah.
Did you think about that first?
Yeah, right.
Did you think about, of the last 10 people I've lost at my company, why did I lose them? Was it for economic reasons? Was it because they didn't see a career path? Was it because couldn't they make the money? So number one, again, back to a classic question is, what am I doing or not doing? Whether unemployment's high or unemployment's low, or the economy is good or the economy is bad, there is work still out there to be done.
Well, and you know me, I'm not giving up. I'm just trying to process it, like trying to be logical. Like, why is this happening? It doesn't make sense to me.
No, and I think a huge part of this is still, from my perspective at least, we're still feeling effects of not COVID, but what COVID did in terms of force companies and force organizations to look at how work is done differently.
Right.
And all this transition of remote work and technology and all those pieces, it works, but not for everyone. And I think we're still in the middle of figuring out what that actually looks like.
Awesome, Vince. Great discussion. What are some trends you're seeing? This is my favorite thing to talk to you about, because I get a touch on a lot of the aces, but I'm not in the trenches with them than you are. What trends are you seeing there? Because you take that information, you look at what we're doing here in what we call our living laboratory, Grunder Landscaping, where we actually have a real live company that we're working on, we're sharing what we're doing well here and not doing well.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're applying that in companies. We're seeing what they're doing. You're coming back saying, hey, got a great idea from G&G in Charlotte, and this is, whoa, let's take it.
Yeah.
So what trends are you seeing?
Trends number one are, I think people have finally realized, like, we have to train our people. We have to train our people in a meaningful way. People have, for a long time, Marty, I think you'll remember people saying, like, well, I just can't find an awesome salesperson. I just can't find an awesome team leader. And it's like, you're going to have to train and create those people.
Yeah, right.
You have to get people that have a great attitude.
So you're seeing owners that are like not complaining about it. They're trying to take what they have and make it better.
Scott Myatt at Myatt Landscaping Company in Raleigh, North Carolina, has a level up training program. It's incredible.
Yeah.
About what you do when you come into the organization. Where do you want to go? We'll give you all the steps to get there.
Cool when an entrepreneur
it's amazing.
comes up with solutions like that?
Cole Weller Brothers in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, they have their FIT Foreman and Training program. It's incredible. It's like a college class for these men and women to grow in the organization and run a crew and then
Love
run
it.
a team, right?
Love
So
it.
companies are really digging down and they're absolutely training. That's number one. Number two, they are realizing that, again, I said it briefly already, that recurring services in some way, shape, or form has got to be more of their portfolio.
And that's like the foundation,
Correct.
right? That's, there's equity in that. And, newsflash, if you don't know this, companies that have a portfolio that is maintenance focused trade at a higher multiple
Absolutely. Yeah.
than construction. And
No
the
doubt.
reason is, if somebody's going to buy your business, they want to be able to come into it and immediately slot the whole thing and be able to start work and not, oh gosh, I got to go find $5 million worth of design
Every
build
year,
work every
right.
year. How am I going to do that? I don't
Yeah.
even know about design build. I was working at a company. I thought, it's just all that stuff.
So absolutely, people are rethinking that. And again, whether it's traditional maintenance services or lawn care or pest control or whatever the case may be, they're looking for recurring services in their business.
What other trends are you seeing? Is there anything else?
I'd say it goes back to the first one of training, but this is a negative trend that I'm seeing that people are working to correct, but it's still important to call out. Companies have outgrown the current structure they're in the last few years very quickly because companies have grown by 20 or 30%, but they're still using the same systems and processes. They're still using the same training program. They're still using the same sales training. They're still using the same company structure.
I'm going to say something that's maybe a little mean. Using some of the same people.
Right. Absolutely.
We see this even in our own business. There's people that help you get to a certain level and they plateau and they need to stay there. You go and you try to take them and move them into a bigger role and they don't do it. It doesn't, sometimes it works.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Oftentimes it works.
Right.
But that's just the evolution of a business.
Absolutely. So
I even myself, I think about what I do today versus what I did 35 years ago. There was a point where I caught on. Some people don't catch on and some people aren't motivated to do it. That's another thing. That's just life.
Yeah. So they're thinking that, hey, they're thinking I can run my business the same way I did this year versus last year. But when you're 30% bigger and have 30% more trucks and people and transactions
and issues,
right? Like those balloon and those spiral. And if you're not moving the organization from a evolvement standpoint as fast as it's growing, that gap becomes difficult for companies.
Vince, thanks for coming in today. This has been great.
Oh, it's great.
Little couple more things here I have for you. What's on the horizon for the Grow Group?
Yeah.
And then we have something very exciting to announce.
Yeah, very cool.
Talk about snow fighters and talk about what we're doing there. What's on the horizon?
On the horizon for the Grow Group is just more opportunities for us to train and educate landscapers. It's our favorite thing to do.
Everywhere.
We love it. We have an awesome community that we've built, whether it's the Grow event or peer groups or field trips here at Grunder. It's just more people,
virtual
more
event,
interactions, bringing the communities together. So that's number one. Number two is, very excited to be partnering starting in 2025 with Snow Fighters, which is a group that's been run by Phil Harwood for a long time.
Great guy.
And Phil's come to us and he said, hey, you guys are doing this for landscapers. I'm doing this for snow. I think there's a lot more we can do together than apart. And so we're super excited to work with the Snow Fighters across the U.S. To, again, bring the same level of training and education that we do in the green industry to snow professionals as well.
And, Grunder Landscaping a couple of years ago was doing 500,000 square feet of snow. We're now way more than that.
Yeah.
And it's become an integral part of our business. So it's been cool. I'm not going to say we totally understand it, but man, the last 3 years, we've learned a ton. So this is a cool thing. It's another thing we're going to be able to work with Snow Fighters on because, we're on the journey ourselves. If you're in a snow climate where you get snow, you're going to be seeing more and more content from us around that to help you grow your snow industry.
Absolutely.
Snow removal
very
services.
excited about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Vince, thanks for coming in. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate all that you're doing. I know we're got a lot going on, but it was nice of you to stop by.
Absolutely. It's great, Marty.
Okay.
Thank you.
Vince Torchia, folks, Vice President and my partner here at the Grow Group. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Grow Show powered by Steel. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the Grow Show. And if you can, give it a rating or share a comment. That helps more success-minded landscape professionals find us. And if you really want to help us, take out your cell phone right now. Give our show a rating again, but also text that show. There's my dog, Nellie. Text that show to a friend, a colleague, maybe one of your coworkers, because that helps us find more success-minded landscape pros like yourself. Thanks for joining us on The Grow Show. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grow Show. A special thanks to the folks at Steel, whose support makes this podcast possible and whose outdoor power equipment makes our jobs easier every day. Remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and head to growgroupinc.com to learn more about our other offerings or to find more information to help your landscaping business. We'll talk to you next week.